A single agent is powerful, but a workflow of agents and logic coordinated and repeatable is where real automation happens. Today we're going to design workflows that put agents to work on multi-step business problems. I'm Rob Folkrod, lead technical trainer at Microsoft, and in this session we're going to build an agent-driven workflow using Microsoft Foundry. We'll start by understanding what workflows are in Foundry, identify the common patterns you'll keep reaching for, and then create workflows in the Foundry portal and add agents to them. Look how to maintain them over time, and finally use workflows from code. We'll bring it all together by building an agent-driven workflow of our own. Let's get into it. So when you first look at workflows inside of Foundry, they are going to look dramatically different than everything we have seen up to this point. If you have some familiarity with things like Azure Logic Apps or Power Automate, that idea of having some sort of graphical interface where you have a number of nodes and then edges that are joining those nodes together, you will have seen something like this. You can see right here that we've got an example of what a workflow might look like. And we are given the ability to build logic-driven workflows in between agents. Now, it's quite easy to create an agent we've seen up to this point. And one of the things that I think we are, at least early on, kind of likely to do is to try to build a lot of conditional logic inside of an agent. In the instructions, say, if this happens, then I'm going to need you to do this. And if this happens, then we're going to need to do this. And agents are not logic engines. It's just not the strength of what a large language model does. Under certain circumstances, you may see some success with something like that. But as you start pushing the boundaries, you are more and more likely to find failures. And you'll know you start to do it when in your instructions, you start to add things like, you must always follow these instructions. And then it doesn't follow those instructions, right? That's a clue that maybe the instructions are getting a little bit too cumbersome. And then we need to start breaking agents down into agents and sub-agents. And then how do we get from one to another? And there's a few technologies that could be used, but workflows gives us a really nice surface that we can work with. All the agents that we've been building up to this point are eligible to be included inside of a workflow. So you don't have to build a special type of agent. You don't have to, there's nothing called a workflow agent that you're going to have to create. You can continue to use the regular agents that you have there. And then we start connecting those nodes together. Some of the patterns that we're going to see are patterns that we have experimented with or used in a lot of other platforms. One standard pattern is what's known as the sequential pattern. Here we've got a bunch of individual steps, and these steps themselves could be all sorts of things. They could be decisions that are made, or they could be individual agents, one agent here, and that information flows to the next agent, and that flows to the next agent, right? Where each one serves as output to the next. So maybe we have something that's generating some sort of content, something that's doing some sort of review on that content, and something that's then doing maybe a little edit and publish. Right? That's a sequential flow, and we're not needing to go back. We don't have to approve or anything along those lines. We just make a straight line through. Another option that we have is the ability to bring humans into the loop. That up to this point, what we've been seeing is either we initiate an action and then we take a look at the result, or inside of the chat, we look at it and then we send it back and we send it back, and we're always in there. It's not an optional component. It's every step of the way. And there'll be a number of processes where you may want a series of automations up front, right? This really represents more than just one thing, but a series of automations up front. Then when it's done, does somebody approve of that? Or do we go back and have some sort of edit that goes on? So the ability to do this kind of pause and give us oversight before something is completed. Okay. Another pattern that we see is that of group chat, that we may have some sort of orchestrator, and that orchestrator then gets to decide like who does what in that response. And they each come back to a central node. These are possibilities that we may see in various workflow patterns. So when it comes to working with workflows in Foundry, there's a couple underlying principles. The first is this idea of an executor. So each one of these nodes inside of Foundry, each one of these is its own individual executor. They have their own abilities. So for example, you can see this one here would have the ability to set a variable, right? Possibly define that variable, then put a value into it. Where this node right here, also an executor, it has the ability to call into a particular agent. Right? So they're all executors, right? They each receive input from the system that went before them and could potentially pass in output to the systems that go next. Right? They can be logic or they can be agent calls. Then there are edges. And edges are going to be then connecting to other systems. So for example, here we have a simple edge that is connecting from set variable. We're going to end up in the if-else condition. And we're doing that every single time. The flow is going to be going straight from set variable into the if-else statement. However, here we have a more complicated edge, in which case from the main if, we're going to make a decision, and if we're going this way, right, we're going to be looking at that computation right there. If we're going this way, decisions are being made. So the flow will change on an execution by execution basis. So those can be direct. Again, they can be conditional. They can be switch, where you have a single decision, but several different possible outcomes in there. And there are other patterns, like the fan-out pattern, typically used if we're doing some sort of for each, we're going to do a bunch of things in parallel, then we'll fan out. And these two tend to match one another. We tend to fan out, like so, to various nodes, and then at some point in time, we will then fan back in to collect the results and move forward from there. There's also a series of events. As a developer, we can key in on those events, like, hey, the workflow has started, or the output of one of those nodes has been created, or there's some sort of error. So from the exterior of that, we can listen in on those events. So let's take a look at putting this together. We'll first start by building a simple workflow, and in that workflow we'll involve 2 or 3 agents along the way and some conditional structures, and then take a look at how it works. Let's jump in. So for starters, we're going to find ourselves back here like we have many, many times at this point. We have a project, we have models already deployed, but we don't have agents. But specifically here, we don't have any workflow agents. You'll see that's a separate tab inside of the agents section at this point in time. So I'm going to swing over into workflows, and of course, we don't have any of those either. So let's go ahead and create a workflow. We will start from scratch, although there are some really nice kind of prefab items in there that'll give you some idea of how to build those with some instructions along the way. But we will start from the blank side of things. And while we're blank here, we have this idea of start. Matter of fact, I'm going to tweak this just a little bit. Normally, when you open it up, it's going to be in the left to right mode. You can see up at the top that you can flip that back and forth. So if you want left to right, great. If you want more of a maybe a logic apps type strategy or feel, then you can go up and down, whatever works for you. But we'll go with the default. And you can see here we have our input just called start. From there, we're going to build a series of nodes, and we have either the new node option sitting right over here, or go ahead and click directly on the plus itself. So in this one, we're going to add a new node. And in this node, what's going to happen is we're going to simulate the processing of multiple tickets that are going to come in. So the variable that we are going to set right now, we are going to create a brand new variable. In that variable here, we're going to give it the name of support tickets. So it's a little grumpy already. You can see missing variable name. So we'll go ahead and click that. And we will call this support tickets. Now, I've been through this demo many times before. You saw it kind of auto-populate right there. That won't be the case. You will see local and some sort of random variable name. I clicked too quick. But you're going to keep the local dot, indicating that it is a local variable, and then the name of the variable of support tickets. Right, just fine. If you put in support tickets, it would be fine too, but eventually it will resolve to local.support tickets. Then we're going to drop in our array of tickets. If we kind of zoom in here, we will see ticket number 1, the API returns a 403 error when creating invoices, but our API key hasn't changed. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, is there a way to export all the invoices as a CSV? And problem number 3, I was charged twice for the same invoice last Friday, and my customer is also seeing 2 receipts. Can someone fix this? Those are the 3 tickets that have come in at this point in time. So we're going to say done. Now we have a variable in there. This could come from the start. This could come from data that's being passed in for ease of use right now. We're just kind of hard coding that. While we are working on this, I'm also going to make sure that I don't forget to give this a name. So I don't lose anything. I'm going to do save and drop in name right in there. This is the Contoso Pay customer support triage workflow. We'll have a series of agents in here that are going to be working. And so we have ourselves an array to begin, which means we probably want to go with some sort of loop that's going to be processing all of those. So I'll click the plus right here, and we will move into the for each loop. And in the for each loop, it's asking for us, okay, what is the thing that we are going to loop over? And we will be looping over the support tickets like that. And then then what is this variable right here? Typically in our for loop or for each loop, or like for something in that list, what is that counter variable name right there? We will call that the current ticket. So we now have our counter variable that we can use. And so each one of those items in the array will be sitting inside of current ticket. So that's feeling better. You can see here, this is our looping process. Whatever is inside of this plus right here, this is the thing that's going to be repeating, and that's going to be most of what we do going forward. The processing will be for each one of said tickets. So first thing we're going to do, we are going to bring in an agent to call. Looking at those tickets, we need to figure out, well, what are we supposed to do with them? So I'm going to hit the plus in the middle right here. And one of the primary things that we are doing in an AI agents class is invoking an agent. So I'll click on agent right here. And if there were existing pre-built agents, that's all we've been doing for the past N sessions. We've been building agents. We could incorporate any of those agents that we've already brought in. In this case, we're starting from scratch. We will create a brand new agent. We will give it that name of triage agent. Go on, my friend. There we go. Awesome. And we will go ahead and throw in some instructions in here. And as we go through these instructions, I'll zoom in so you all can see them. We go through them here. It says classify the user's problem description into exactly one category from the list below, provide a confidence score from 0 to 1. And those things are, we have billing, technical, and general. So billing charges refunds and duplicate payments, missing or incorrect payments, subscription pricing, invoices being charged. Technical, API errors, integration, webhooks, and then in the general, how to data exports, reports, UI. An additional little important rule, questions about exporting or viewing and downloading invoices, might be billing, are general, not billing. Billing only applies when money was charged. So we have a description in here. But what we would normally have is just like a free-form output. One of the things we have not done in here, although we could have all along the way, is when we're looking at the parameters here for the agent, we can specify what the format is going to be of the output. We can say here, I'm going to give you instead of just like free-form text, I'm going to give you a schema, a JSON schema, and I want you, the agent, to comply with said schema. So we're going to pop in there, and we are going to drop in a schema. So when it goes and assigns into a category, remember it says give us a category and give us a confidence number in there. We are going to have the customer issue. We are going to have the category, one of those three that were assigned, and the confidence number, some sort of number between 0 and 1. No additional properties. All of those are going to be required. Great. So we will save that. And while I'm looking over here, we're fine. We're just not done yet. All is good. The rest here should be in pretty good shape in terms of its what the agent is doing. So feeling good there. We're going to make one additional modification, and that's going to be on the node setting. So the detail is referring to the agent itself. Node setting is really the workflow components. So when we go to node settings here, we can say, well, where is the thing that it's testing coming from? Where is its input message? So the input message here is going to come from that current ticket variable that we saw earlier, current ticket. That'll be its input, but then we're going to need to pass output along the way. So we could then say, where is that output going to be? And that output could be text, or if we were doing a JSON. So the text itself, we can create a new variable here called triage output text. And for the JSON, another new variable, triage output JSON. Done. Now we've got the beginning. So for each one of the array items, we will loop through and come up with some sort of triage. Now, it could be good, right? It'll do all three of those. That's fine. But in workflows, the idea would be, well, let's go a little bit further. So in here, let's build an additional. So right now, if I go right there, the little plus will appear. And in there, we have our flow of control. So for example, in this case, we have an if statement. Here, we saw that there was a confidence level between 0 and 1. So we're going to add a path here for the confidence. And we're going to say, listen, if the confidence level is greater than 60%, 6, then we're going to go the true branch. Otherwise, we will go the false, the else branch there. So we are looking specifically at the data that came before it, local triage output JSON dot confidence. Now we're going to start with the easier of the two paths, with where we are going with this. And the easier of the two paths is the else. If we are not confident, we're just going to bail. We're just going to get out at this point in time. So we will hit the little plus that is right on the else branch there, and we will just deliver a message. In that message, we are going to say, I don't know, the support ticket classification has low confidence, requesting more details about the issue, and then drop in the current ticket. So that will be our exit. That'll be pretty much, we're done. The rest is going to happen kind of in this top level of the branch. So now we've got some confidence, but we have multiple paths, right? There were multiple categories. So we're going to bring ourselves one more if statement in here. Swing down into said else statement. We will add a path here that we get to decide. We add the path, click the little pencil there. And we're going to say in all of this, if the output JSON dot category is equal to billing, single equals in this case is equal to billing, then we'll go one route, that would be the billing route. Otherwise, we will head another. So continuing here, and we're going to repeat the same, right? We could keep doing agent after agent after agent, but right now, if it's billing, we're just going to say, hey, we're sending you off to a human who is going to be doing billing. So on that top if, we'll return a variable, return a message here. And the message to send will be escalating to humans. But if it isn't billing, and we're pretty confident, that's where we are down here on this bottom path here, then we're going to invoke one more agent, because it would just make sense for a good demo to have multiple agents in here. So little plus, grab a brand new agent. This is going to be our agent who will be in charge of resolution. So we'll create a new agent. We will give that agent name of resolution agent. And now, again, we've got a bunch of agent work to set up. We will give it instructions here. You are a customer support resolution assistant for Contoso Pay. Your task is to draft clear, professional, and friendly support response based upon. And then we've got some guidelines in here. If the issue is technical, avoid asking for logs or credentials or sensitive information. We're just creating a generative AI response here. But everything that we've been doing up to this point, whether we're looking at Foundry IQ, whether we are invoking MCP, all of those components that we've been doing all course long are available to us in this agent. Right now, we're keeping it simple so we can get in and get out, but you can start assembling these pieces in many different ways. Okay. So all of this is looking good. We will go to the node settings here because we need to know what the input into this is going to be. So inside of our node settings here, the input message is going to be the triage output text. So we see what that output was from our triage side of things. And we will save this into another variable. So the input obviously coming from this direction, output, where are we going from here? And we will output that into resolution output text. New variable, resolution output text. Done. All right, I think we're doing okay. If we go to the very beginning here, an array of problems, loop through each problem. Triage agent takes a problem at a time. does a little bit of work to determine what the category is and how confident. If we're not confident, send a message and we're done. If we are confident, then decide, is it billing? Needs to be a human. If it's not billing, then we will hand it off to an agent who will give a response. We'll do a save. And then from here, we can preview the result. This is basically give it a run. Now, the initial message that we put here really isn't important. We didn't really do a lot with the start message here. We didn't want anybody to have to build an array of objects and then try to craft that in. So we'll just say, just process the tickets. Doesn't really matter along the way. But so triage agent kicks in. So the triage agent runs the first time. Its output, this is a customer issue, category technical confidence 1. Great. The resolution agent, because it is confident and it is not billing, resolution agent writes some code here. API key 403, you might have to cycle your key. Second time the agent runs, we have, is there a way to export all the invoices? That is a general. We had a very specific case for that. In that this is not a billing question. This is a general question. Confidence 1. Yeah, yes, you can export them all. Bop, 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 bop. Here's what you have to do to export said items. And then the last one here, we have a I was charged twice. That is a billing question. Highly confident there. We are going to escalate that to a human team. So it works. We're in really good shape. We like what we're seeing right here. Now we need to switch into code. So if we look over here, we have the same AI toolkit that we've been using off and on all course. And in there, we should have our Contoso customer support triage. Now, you don't need the name of it here, but we could also go through the same. Let's run it. Let's test it from here as well. But what we do need is we need the project endpoint. So I'm grabbing the project endpoint. I'm swinging into our code and into the environment variable, which just is asking for one thing and one thing alone, the endpoint. Put that in, give, save. Then we're going to take a look at our workflow, or at the code. So again, same, very similar as to what we have done a bunch of times, right? We're using the default credential, and we are using the project client. We're grabbing the project endpoint from our environment variables. I threw in a little helper function in here so that when we see the output is a little bit nicer to work with. That's all it is. It's basically a print statement that does a little bit of parsing in there. And then again, I don't know, this is the fourth, fifth time we've seen this exact bit of code here. Use the credential, grab ourselves the project, also get the AI client. In this case, we've got a variable here looking for the workflow name, Contoso pay customer support triage. We are starting a conversation in the background where we will feed that to the workflow where it will keep everything. And we then say responses.create, passing in the conversation ID. But then here inside of extra body, this is where there's kind of this flexibility of input, like additional metadata that would be necessary. And in this case here, the agent reference is going to be a workflow with the name of Contoso support. The input in there, like we were talking about, then we weren't really using the input, so it just says start. Fine, nothing wrong with that. And we will be doing this in stream. So the events kick in. When we are completed, we will retrieve the response. That's going to be the entirety of the response, which is why we're going through and taking that output text and then parsing it out so we can see the 3 different parts of it. It'll be just one block. And then deleting the conversation when we're done. So should be in good shape. Let's open up the terminal here. Give ourselves a little bit of room to breathe. And into the terminal, let's give it a run. So Python and workflow. And being that this is the very first time it's going to run, it's going to take a second to resolve all the components. We should get there pretty reasonably. Got ourselves a conversation. Responses are coming back. And here we are. And this, again, this is the parsed out version. Otherwise, it would be just a one large string in here. But ticket 1, 100% confidence. The issue are 403. When building invoices, the API hasn't changed. 403 indicates a permission issue. Right? Ticket number 2, general, 100% confidence. Can we export all those? Yep, you can. Go to the dashboard. And ticket number 3, that's a billing question. We know with the billing question, we got to set that up to a human support team. We're going to escalate that. So the code, this is one of the nice advantages of having the kind of the agentic side of things on that server. Our code base, which could be, doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be pretty straightforward in how to invoke not an insignificant workflow beneath the scenes. All right, let's wrap this up. So which type of node in a Foundry workflow is used to invoke an AI agent? Really hope you made that one. Yeah, definitely an agent node. Which node type would you use if you wanted to handle multiple items in a workflow without duplicating nodes? Right, that's for each, that loop that we saw in that example. So here we've had a brief introduction to that of the workflow system inside of Foundry. We've seen that they can be declaratively designed. We've got that UI surface that we can build over the top of it. We have options in terms of various workflows that might be involved, like sequential or human in the loop. Right? Each one of those nodes itself is an executor that's going to either run an agent or some sort of logic that goes along with it. And then from those executors, we link those together by edges to route that data or movement through the workflow. Okay. If we wanted to have a workflow system in which we needed to monitor, there is a series of events that we can key in on to see what's going on in that workflow. In this session, we moved from individual agents to coordinated workflows. We covered the concept of workflows in Foundry, recognized the patterns that show up over and over, built workflows in the portal, added agents to them and talked through the maintenance, and then called workflows from code. Thanks for being here in this stretch of Develop AI Apps and Agents on Azure. Workflows are where the agents really start to feel like coworkers, and I had a great time walking you through it. Stay curious. Workflows and orchestration patterns are still maturing, so the more you explore, the more you'll find. There are many ways to continue your learning journey, and I invite you to search for your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.